So this is pretty fascinating. So we've actually seen a clip from yesterday of Joe Scarborough, who's a host on Morning Joe, defending Bernie Sanders, basically claiming that Elizabeth Warren is just making the comment that Bernie Sanders said a woman can't win in 2020, that was completely made up and fabricated. Now, this is even more hilarious. Both Mika, Brezinski, as well as Morning Joe are going to go to town on Elizabeth Warren.
I am completely confused as to why it turned from Bernie Sanders saying I didn't say it to Elizabeth Warren being asked, what did you think when he said it? He says he didn't say it. So you turn to Elizabeth Warren and say, did he say it?
Bizarre.
That's the issue.
That was bizarre.
I mean, it's bizarre.
It was.
What the heck happened there? Are they listening? Because you got to listen when you do a debate.
Yeah.
And then take the question to the next candidate.
You just missed.
It was a miss. Yeah.
But you were waiting to go.
But
Did
this
he
is
say
the
it?
story.
It was a miss.
By the way, I've had conversations, private conversations, taken to the press and totally manipulated for the benefit of the person who was sharing the story. This happens all the time. It's clear there's a misunderstanding, or Elizabeth Warren is focused on something that was said, and Bernie Sanders is not going to be someone who says, I don't think a woman could win. That's just stupid.
Right. It would not be smart.
Especially after 2016. You just didn't say that.
Also, Bernie went to her in 2015 and said, hey, I think you can win. I think you should run for president.
This is a terrible issue to bring up.
This is such small ball.
It's so hilarious how they perfectly see through this nonsense. I love Mika's quote there where she just says, that's stupid. The idea that Bernie Sanders actually went to her and told her that is hilarious. Now, there's basically a sort of conversation now going on as to whether or not, okay, is Elizabeth Warren just straight up lying, or is it like a mischaracterization on her part where she's made this sort of mistake or whatever you want to call it, she just had a misunderstanding with Bernie Sanders. But it's impossible for it to be a misunderstanding. And also the evidence lies proving that Elizabeth Warren has had a lying issue. There are a lot of things that Elizabeth Warren has lied about. She lied about being Native American for decades. She released a recipe book or something called Pow Wow Chow that's completely plagiarized off of a website, I believe it was. She put Native American as her race on the Texas State Bar form. Harvard hired her in part because of that, because of her claiming she was Native American. She apparently lied about being fired because of being pregnant. She has stolen valor, which is claiming that she's a public school teacher when she was a public school teacher for 1 year in an emergency degree. The list really goes on and on and on, to be honest. Apparently she claimed that her dad was a janitor, but her siblings no, that's not true. He wasn't actually a janitor. There's a lot of lies, and you got to also keep in mind, she was a Republican into her 40s. She voted for Reagan. She was a Reaganite. So it's there's definitely something going on there for sure. So I'm under the belief that, no, she was just flat out lying, and there's something weird going on, because I don't know how you can lie like that. And if you watch the debate in terms of her just responding to the question as if, oh yeah, he totally said it, that's the presumption, essentially, according to her response. It is very weird to see, man, because what is wrong with you? That was your friend, right? And now you're just smearing him and lying and painting him out to be this anti-woman candidate. It's pretty disgusting. Certainly, it's pretty disgusting. But I do like that Morning Joe, the hosts on Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brezinski, and from the stuff that I've seen from them on Bernie Sanders, they seem to be pretty good about this stuff. I remember seeing a clip back in 2016 where Bernie and Hillary are talking about gun reform, and Bernie says we need to all stop yelling at each other on the issue, and Hillary tries to spin that and say, oh, whenever I talk, you take it as I'm yelling, and they laugh that off. They do some pretty good stuff when it comes to Bernie, I have to say. So shout out to Joe and Mika.